Welcome to the Story Lab. Today we return to the Star Wars universe to look at rewriting a core trilogy in the Star Wars expanded universe. Among the impactful or key book trilogies in the old Star Wars Legends continuity, there is one that is considerably less liked than the others. The Jedi Academy Trilogy. We have already made an experiment where we adapted this trilogy for a new sequel movie series, where we did make several changes. Today we want to return to the actual books and think about how to rewrite them. There are several problems with the books as published, some of which have always been there, others only appear in conjunction with other stories. We have found the following problems. Bad structure. Useless storylines. Bad setups and little payoff. Key characters from the Thrawn trilogy and the Dark Empire comics are missing, due to the books being written before the works were completed. Certain characters feel a bit misrepresented. Those we want to fix with our new mixture. For that we use the following ingredients. The Jedi Academy Trilogy as is. Rework the structure of the books, setups, and payoffs to be more meaningful. Add storylines for key characters from the Thrawn and Dark Empire storylines. Delete or rewrite storylines that feel useless. Do not radically change any of the events, as they are referenced throughout other legend books. Let's put them in and see what happens. A word of warning though, we present a solution, but it might not be the only or even a good solution. The lab is now analyzing the mixture and extracting one solution. Here we go, let's see what we came up with. The Jedi Academy Trilogy Rewrite. We start out the first book, still called Jedi Search, exactly like the original. Han and Chewie are on a diplomatic mission to Kessel, whom they haven't heard from since the surprise return of the Emperor 1 year earlier. Instead of a reception, the Falcon is shot at, forced to land, and Han and Chewie are forced to work in the spice mines. At the same time, Luke requests resources to establish a Jedi Academy and search for potential students. Here is where we start changing things up a bit. Luke is asked how such a search is supposed to be carried out, and Luke answers that some of his friends are already following leads. We then jump to Lando Calrissian and the droids on the Blob Race planet and see how he tries to figure out whether there is a potential Jedi there. Just as the original books, we will have many storylines run in parallel, but we will try to keep better track of them and make the transitions between them seamless. After our introduction to Lando's search, we jump to a new storyline, where Kamsalusa, the only one of Luke's allies to survive the Dark Empire crisis, is following a lead about a weird witch woman that is said to have had supernatural abilities. We then return to Han and Chewie on Kessel and observe how they encounter Kip Durran down in the spice mines. Finally, we return to Coruscant. There, we will have the scenes of Luke discovering ways of detecting Jedi potential. He sends his measuring tool to Lando Calrissian, while he himself sets out to grab Streen and Gantoris. He asks Leia to follow up on 2 more Jedi Search leads, namely trying to contact Mara Jade and Kyle Katarn. Leia is unable to reach either, but also gets a lot to do as soon as her 2 two-year-old twins arrive at Coruscant. At the same time, she is searching for a base where Luke can build his academy and thinking about Han. We get to see how Han, Chewie, and Kip make their escape from the mines and start to try and escape into the Maw. Luke, meanwhile, meets Gantoris and convinces him to come along to the Jedi Academy. They then go and meet Streen. It seems like the Jedi search is going great, until we jump to Lando, who finds out that his target has no Jedi abilities at all. At least, Kamsalusa does find a lead on the old woman, and is surprised to hear that it leads to Kessel of all places. At Kessel, we see Han, Chewie, and Kip discover the Maw installation and being captured by Admiral Darla. Meanwhile, Kamsalusa finds more traces of the potential Jedi that he is following. They point towards Kessel. Cam actually travels to Kessel, but finds more information and determines that the rumors described Vima Dieboda, of whom he knows that she is not on Kessel anymore. So, he abandons the search and returns to Coruscant. Luke and Lando have both also returned to Coruscant, where they meet with Leia. Leia herself had not yet had any luck in contacting Kyle or Mara, nor had she found a suitable location for the Academy, and she still had to organize a reception for Ambassador Furlan from Cadria. As Luke, Lando, Leia, and Kamal discuss Han's continued absence, they piece together some information from each of them to determine that Han is still on Kessel, probably trapped there. Immediately, the men decide to depart for Kessel, leaving Leia with the Jedi students Gantoris and Streen to care about in addition to her own children. Leia is still struggling to handle it all when the ambassador arrives. The reception fails spectacularly, with Fergan spitting in Mon Mothma's face, and Leia missing that he did so in a suspicious manner. In fact, he had used poison. Finally, the first book ends in much the same manner as it does in the original. Luke and Lando steal back the Millennium Falcon, Han, Chewie, and Kip escape in the Sun Crusher, the new superweapon developed at the Maw. Leia finds Yavin 4 as a location for the Academy, and Kip is found to be strong with the Force. We then transition into the second book, which is subject to even fewer changes. Most importantly, we do not begin the story by the seemingly unrelated incident on Vortex, but actually with an attack by Admiral Darla on her rampage through the galaxy. We then get to see Darla's attack being discussed in the Senate and how Leia is sent to appease the other species in the region that are concerned about Darla. In that same scene, we could also include the first hints at Mon Mothma's sickness and a hint at the mechanic that would be working on Admiral Akbar's B-Wing. This slower start allows the story to really blossom once we reach the Jedi Academy and meet the other Jedi students and Luke's teaching methods. And we too feel excitement for the prospect of Kip joining the Praxium. We then witness another attack by Darla, this time on the planet Dantuan, where she wipes out the refugees from Gantoris colony. Though it is not explicitly stated, we can infer that this is when Gantoris started to listen to the dark shadow of Exar Kuan. As pointed out before, the rest of the book remains largely unchanged. Akbar destroys the Citadel of Winds on Vortex and subsequently leaves the military. Chewie and C-3PO nearly lose Jason and Jaina in the Coruscant underworld. Ambassador Furlan is revealed to be behind Akbar's accident and the illness of Mon Mothma. The Sun Crusher is brought to Yavin only to be raised again by a fallen Kip Durran, with the help of the spirit of a long-dead Sith Lord, who also takes out Luke Skywalker himself. Admiral Darla attacks Mon Cala but is defeated, and the rest of her fleet is destroyed by Kip when he uses the Sun Crusher on the star-forming region, wherein Darla is hiding. For the third book we repeat a major change we did for our movie adaptation, while otherwise leaving the books mostly as they are. Crucially, we change it so that it is Kip who, in an act of redemption, heals Mon Mothma with a technique shown to him by Clile. In addition, small roles will be added for Garm Bel Iblis, who is tasked with hunting down Kip Durran before Han can get to him and stop the young Jedi's rampage, and for Talon Card, who will be on Kessel's moon shortly before its destruction and temporarily believed to have died, until he suddenly reappears mid-battle. Also, Leia's Nogri bodyguard should appear. So, in the end we have not changed too much. Let's summarize. We added a storyline for Cam Salusa, where he almost finds a Jedi but finds that it was rumors of Vima Dieboda he was following all this time. An additional task for Leia to try and contact Mara Jade and Kyle Katarn, adding to the pressure on her that makes her miss Mon Mothma's poisoning. A new beginning to the second book that better sets up the storylines of the book. More redemption for Kip through healing Mon Mothma. And a few small roles for Garm Bel Iblis and Talon Card. Please note that everything presented here is simply the results of an experiment. No part of this presentation is intended as a correction of an existing story or claims to be the real story. The selection or omission of any parts of the source material is not to be understood as commentary, positive or negative, on the original productions. These are simply thoughts and experiments based on existing material, and none of it could be created without the work of all those involved in creating the original works. As with any scientific result, you may utilize any of the story ideas that resulted from these experiments for your own experiments or production, while citing this experiment as its source. It is now closing time for our lab. Goodbye until next time.